Okay, now I finally have the camera set up. So, hi, this is Johnny. I'm at work right now. This is the break room. And so the concept I decided to focus on in the movie was really about the prejudice at the time. So I focused on the culture of the early 70s, the introduction of people of color coming into public schools, ending of segregation, and that creates really a hostile culture, very aggressive language, or aggressive communication, sorry. So in the introduction of the movie, very well established that this is a southern town. It was recently segregated. That's a really big part of their culture, is, just not accepting people of color, keeping whites away from them. So that basically shapes the rest of how the movie goes and how the conflicts go. So I have 3 main points, 3 examples from the movie. And this is the slideshow that I have. Here we go. We can't see it very well on camera, but so I have culture of hostility up here, which is the racism plus prejudice. Then aggressive communication are my 2 points I wanted to focus on. So what do I mean by culture of hostility? So I mean, this is a term that I use to refer to the culture of the movie, and some examples from our book. What I mean is coal cultures, which is the culture of the town itself within the aspect of all of America and what was happening during this time. Salience, which just means how much importance do you place on cultural norms and stuff like that. So, nearly. Hello? Okay, back to it. Second of all, what I mean is salience, and what I mean by this is how much importance that the characters place on cultural norms. So every single character follows cultural norms, basically is very adverse to the idea of change. Then I have ethnocentrism. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right, which is the fact that white people consider themselves to be above people of color, which is very obvious in this movie. So this is my first example when I points. So I have this scene in the movie whenever they're first at the camp and the players are not getting along with each other, so Coach Binns just sort of pulls them aside and is like, hey, blah, 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 blah. This is meant to show the aggressive communication style. This is a quote from the movie. We will be perfect in every aspect of the game. You drop a pass, you run a mile. You miss a blocking assignment, you run a mile. You fumble the football, and I will break my foot off in your John Brown Hyde parts, and then you will run a mile. So, this is what I saw in the movie. This is like we're just breaking it down. So he takes an authoritative position when speaking to the players, and he uses assertive language just to be really stern with them, catch their attention. He's probably used to being given this sort of authority at the other school that he used to coach. So this is part of him going off of what he considers to be a cultural norm, and he's just sort of following what he thinks is normal. But in contrast to that, whenever he speaks to other people who are perhaps closer in age to him or in position, he just sort of takes a more calmer approach, more casual. And I chose this scene just to show how we talk to people in different situations. We sort of code switch, we change our dialect, we change our tone, our demeanor, things like that. This is the example I chose to show the hostility of the town. And this is when Coach Yost, previous coach, is basically, he's telling the whole school, hey, I'm going to step down. They're not happy with it. They protest. They say they're going to leave the school, parents and the students. What I saw in this scene, there was a lot of prejudice that was displayed against people of color, against the new coach. So the residents do not accept the integration of people of color, obviously. It's normal for them to discriminate against, so they consider this a cultural norm. Another layer to the scene, though, is that the school doesn't just want Coach Yost to step down. They're not just protesting because of the integration of people of color. They're also protesting because he's a good coach. And I would attribute this to the in-group versus the out-group. The out-group would be Coach Boone, the new coach. The in-group is Coach Yost, who they're used to. So I chose this scene to show that we as people are not really comfortable with change. And the last example that I have for just to show communication is when Coach Boone is first introduced, and he shows up and he says, I'm going to be the new coach. And none of the other staff members or the players are accepting this. What I saw in the scene was, I just saw this very hostile sort of environment, very openly aggressive. A quote from one of the staff members actually is, why ain't you outside with your little friends hollering? Referring to a protest that was happening because of the murder of a black kid. And I would consider this to be very microaggressive language. So that's why I chose this scene. And also their unspoken language, their nonverbal would suggest that they are very on guard. They're very untrustworthy with this new coach. So that's my video about the movie.